Welcome to Sound Bites. I'm your host, Jennifer Chandler, and Happy New Year. Today, I'll be talking with several of the Daily Memphian staff about some of their favorite eats in Memphis. Sound Bites is the Daily Memphian's weekly food, drink, and dining podcast. You can tune in on WYXR Radio every Thursday at 11 a.m. or listen wherever you get your podcast, iTunes or Spotify, or listen at dailymemphian.com. If you are listening on WYXR, up next you can listen to Sidebar with Eric Barnes. First and foremost, Happy New Year. At the beginning of the year, everyone makes a resolution. A lot of times it's to exercise more, it's to get up earlier every day, it's to make your bed every day. But I think the most common one is probably to eat healthier in the new year. But what does eating healthier really mean? I think it means to eat great food that you enjoy. Today, I'll be talking with several of the Daily Memphian staff about some of their favorite eats in Memphis. These are dishes that they choose to eat just because they taste great. But let's get started talking about all the great food there is to try here in Memphis. First up, I'm talking with Sam Hardiman, the Metro Enterprise reporter for the Daily Memphian. Sam, thanks for being here with me.
Hi, Jennifer.
So, Sam, if you were going to pick a dish that you were going to have, and you didn't need to worry about calories or gluten or anything like that, what is that dish going to be? What's your favorite thing to eat?
The bibimbap burger at Quick Check.
You know, I have not had that burger before, and I've heard about that burger. Now, I've had a bibimbap bowl from Quick Check before, but I've never done the burger. Can you describe what's on that burger?
Egg, a very greasy bun, I'm sure I'm forgetting things. I don't know. I just eat it really fast. It goes down well, but yeah, it's delicious.
So, and one of those things for those who don't know Quick Check, it's on Madison Avenue, kind of right outside the Overton Square district. It's been there forever. Most people think of Quick Check as a kind of like convenience store, and it does have some items in there like that. But for Memphians, it's actually a great sandwich shop. And they have a really eclectic menu. I love their muffalettas there. They're like one of my favorite places to get that. And that would be on my list of something that I'm like, if I'm not worried about anything, I want one of those muffalettas from them. But when you do a burger, especially one with an egg on top, do you eat it there or do you take it home?
I have taken it home, but it gets cold. It's not the same thing. It's going to get messy. So you want access to napkins. I don't want to be burning my paper towels on this respectfully. I try to conserve the paper towels. And so I eat it there. I sometimes will go to the cooler and buy a 6-pack of beer.
I love this idea. I'm going to definitely have to add that one to my list for sure. Is there a particular beer that you choose to go with it?
This is typically local, but I'll typically a Memphis Sand, but often I'll go PBR.
One of the things that I'm giggling about is that you said you need lots of napkins and you want to conserve your paper towels because, in my opinion, some of the best foods are the ones that just are messy, that, get all over your hands and you need lots of paper towels for. Any other dish you'd like to mention before we tell everybody what you do here for us at the Daily Memphian?
I love a good apple fritter, and I gotta say Midtown Donuts also sells you a good apple fritter. Sometimes, particularly when I lived in the area, I would have one before dinner and one after dinner. I would shout out the Midtown Donuts apple fritter.
That's good. I haven't had that. Now, do you eat it at room temperature or do you warm it up?
I don't know. It's about speed for me. So no, that takes too long.
So what do you report on? What does a Metro Enterprise reporter do?
Essentially, I kind of cover the intersection of public money, politics, government, and business, sort of where those things meet. Typically high interest things that are that people here care about. Well,
I know. I always enjoy your stories because I feel like I live in my food world, and I have this beat that is, so essential, I think, to the city of Memphis, but it's a fun beat. I don't sometimes get caught up in the politics and some of the things going on in the city I should, and I just love reading your stories because they always keep me abreast of what's going on in here in our hometown. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Jennifer.
I may have to call you to meet me at Quick Check to enjoy one of those burgers.
If you call, I'll come.
Thanks for being here, Sam.
Thanks.
Joining us now is Elle Perry. She's the Daily Memphian's arts and culture editor. Elle, thanks for talking with me about some of your favorite eats here in Memphis at restaurants. If you had to pick a dish that you could eat with no worries about anything, what would that be?
This one is one that I tried recently for the first time, but Alchemy, they have this sushi roll. I guess it's from back from the salt and soy menu. The Kamala roll, like the wrestler. And it's like seared tuna and crawfish.
Ooh.
But it's really good.
That sounds really, is it like a spicy crawfish mixture in the middle?
Yeah.
So do they do kind of like, is it a spicy crawfish in the middle and the rice and the nori, and then it has the tuna on top? Is it raw tuna or is it seared?
It's seared.
Yeah, because I found that one of the things I loved about that menu at Salt and Soy, which has kind of moved itself to Alchemy because Nick Scott was the owner of both, or one of the owners of both. He always did some kind of fun, interesting things with sushi.
So, it might be salmon, but we can double check that. It's really good. The server recommended it. I usually will ask, what do you recommend? And sometimes I'm like, okay. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, that was really great. But this time I was like, oh, this is amazing.
So that's perfect. I'm going to have to give that one a try. I'm a huge fan of sushi. And I especially, I love a good old fashioned crunchy shrimp roll or, something pretty straightforward. But then I also do get excited when people do kind of some of these different things like they're doing at Alchemy. Is there another dish you'd like to talk about?
Yes. I spend a lot of time at Louis Connolly's. And part of the reason is because the kitchen is open late. I think nowadays I find that there's less places that are open late as far as food goes. You can go and drink pretty late. But as far as hey, I'm hungry. They're doing inventive things with the menu, kind of humorously, I guess. Them and Cameo both have hot dog nights.
Oh, really?
And for one of them, it's Wiener Wednesday. Louis Connolly's, they're getting stuff from Buster's, the meat part.
Oh, yeah, which means it's like Maiden's house. Yeah, but Brad McCarley is one of, and Mitchell Maribel, two amazing butchers. And if you people don't know this, that they make their hot dogs and sausages from scratch there, and they cure their own charcuterie. They're making bacon for different restaurants, the coffee cured bacon that is in a few restaurants that they do. I think they do Kinfolk, but they can buy it there. That's good to know. I did not know that Louis Connolly's was doing that.
It's $7 or $8, but it's it depends on week by week what it is. There's a lamb hot dog for less than $10. And it's good. I believe it's Wednesday they do it. So they have it until they run out of it for the week.
Right.
But it's oh, this is not too bad on your pockets. The reason why I end up going there is because of, sure, drinking is great, but food, I need food. But the food is good, and they are trying different things, which I think is kind of fun.
That's great. And I have to tell you, I love the name. The full name of the bar is Louis Connolly's Bar for Fun Times and Friendship, which is great. It's a bar that opened this past year on South Cleveland Street. And they really wanted to do, I remember when I interviewed them when they were opening it, they were talking about they were wanting to have better food. So I have to tell you, if you happen to ever see, this kind of goes back to Salt and Soy and goes back to Buster's Butcher, is at Salt and Soy, they had a seafood sausage sandwich on the menu there. And I have to tell you, it was amazing. I think it was primarily shrimp. I'm not 100% sure. Brad McCarley, who was at Salt and Soy at the time, who is now at Buster's Butcher, was making it. So if that ever shows up on the menu, you need to try it. Just trust me. It sounds weird, but it's a French technique of making sausages. It is so good.
I'm going to look out for that.
For those that don't know, Elle, can you kind of explain what you cover here at the Daily Memphian?
I kind of have a hybrid job. I'm one of the people over the digital copy desk. Which is kind of day-to-day stuff. But as far as writing, art, culture stories, kind of a generalist. So it could be dance or music or visual art or theater. I like to kind of dive into some different subject matter and just learn a lot. And it's cool because a lot of the times different categories end up kind of merging. We're talking about ballet, but they're music is really important to, these performances. And we're, doing Americana or we're doing country or we're doing hip hop. The story I wrote about the CBU professor who has an exhibition at the Dixon is also a musician. So if you wanted to, you can plug up a lot of his sculptures to instruments and amps and different things. They make noise and, you're supposed to look at them as a primary thing, but they also they're interactive in a way. Usually it always comes back to something else a lot of the times.
So I love it. That's such an important part of what makes Memphis so special, the culture and the arts here. And there are some really talented and amazing artists, artistic people here doing so many different things that, like the one you just told us, the story you just told us about. I mean, who would have thought about combining both, I guess traditional, like being a sculptor, that kind of art, with the art of music into one. That's really kind of an interesting thing. And I'm excited that you highlight those type of things for us. Thanks for being here, Elle. My next guest is Eric Barnes. He's the CEO of the Daily Memphian. Eric, thanks for being here with me.
We're in my office. I had to be here. So I was basically required. No, but yeah, thank you for having me.
For those that don't know, we actually take over Eric's office and record sound bites, all of our podcasts here.
And
so thank you for sharing your office.
I become nomadic, which is fun.
Today we're talking about all the great eats here in the city of Memphis. And if you don't have to worry about anything at all, kind of what is those dishes that you're like at restaurants that you're like, oh my gosh, I am going to eat this. I don't care how many calories it is. I don't care what the ingredients are. This just tastes so good. This is what I'm going to have.
It's probably Gus's fried chicken, and kind of an unlimited amount of Gus's fried chicken. So whenever my kids are home, like they were home for Thanksgiving and we got Gus's, and it's just out of control good for me. And the fries. I love their fries.
When you do Gus's, are you doing like the white meat, the dark meat, the chicken tenders?
The dark meat. Dark meat. And my kids, we're insane. And so we'll generally order on the app, and you have to place exactly the order you want, because otherwise you don't get it. Like there's no sharing. You don't buy like a 20 piece. So, my son will order like 6 drumsticks, 3 wings, a thigh, and but yeah, so I'm the drumsticks. I like the thighs. I like the wings. I love the fries, and I will eat more of it than you can imagine. So it's disgusting.
I've actually, in a weird thing, I've never done takeout from them. I've always just eaten it there. Yeah. Do you get the slice of white Wonder Bread with it too when you do takeout?
If you order it, sometimes they'll just send it, and sometimes they don't. So you have to order it.
They've never not sent it with me.
They've never not sent it with you.
Yeah, because I kind of love when you get it at the restaurant and it comes on kind of on top of the bread, and it soaks up a little bit of that grease, and it's just all that flavor and all that goodness that you get with it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I have eaten 25 pieces of chicken from there, like 25 drumsticks, wings, and thighs. Like
in one sitting?
Yeah. Over the course of we had a bunch at the house, and the kids were little, and it was like a neighborhood party. We got 2 giant trays of it. I started eating, back then I would start eating it when I was driving home. And I remember my son, when he got to be about 12, he was old enough to come. I was like, hey, come help me. I got a bunch of food. And we get in the car, we get all the food. And I'm driving back to Midtown from the downtown Gus's. And I go, hey, reach back there, get me a drumstick and get one for yourself. He goes, what? And I go, no, get one. Don't tell anybody either. We're going to seal it back up. And he goes, do you always do this? And I go, yes, you're in the club now. Get me one. And so we ate like 2 pieces of chicken each driving back, which wasn't a very far drive. Also, side note, I have a manual transmission, so you're shifting, driving with your knee, eating chicken. The car is disgusting. I don't even know how many times I did that. I'm better now. Like at Thanksgiving, I had I probably had 8 pieces. I kept it under 10.
Eric, I have to ask, I would think if I was going to do that, I would put in my order a couple of just the chicken tenders so I could kind of whet my appetite for the drive home. What do you do with the bones?
You wrap them up in a napkin, and when you get out of the car, you tell your son to run over to the trash can and throw them in there real quick and make sure nobody sees. It's the great thing about having kids. Natalie's not there yet with the little, when they get to be a certain age, you can just be like, hey, you got to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to just cover for me. It's great. They're my, accomplice.
Yeah, and they feel really cool. They're getting to do this stuff with Dad.
Yeah. I had so much, that may be one of the times where I had so much that I thought I was going to die. And I went upstairs very slowly, and I got a bunch of aspirin. And I took a bunch of aspirin because I was like, well, if I'm about to have a heart attack, maybe this will help. And then I just had and now I drink red wine often anyway, but I was just drinking red wine and taking aspirin and lying on the couch breathing very slowly for about an hour. Again, I'm not that bad anymore, but I'm pretty bad.
That's absolutely hysterical. And the French fries, they have pretty good French fries.
They have really good fries.
Yeah, I think underrated. everything that they fry, they've mastered the art.
Yeah.
I really like their, if you've ever had their catfish, they don't really serve it at the restaurant, but they do it for catering, and they'll do it at special events. The first time I ever had it was at Zoo Rendezvous. And They do catfish
I bet
really
it's-
well.
I bet it's really good.
Yeah, they use some of that, whatever that same, I'm guessing they probably don't brine the catfish in the same stuff,
Right.
but they might. But it's not quite as spicy as they do with the chicken, but it's got that flavor in it still.
Yeah.
So
I had it in Gus's in Oakland once, just as good. And I had it somewhere else. I can't remember where, and it was just as good.
Oakland, California?
California. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good to hear.
They're in like 30 or 40 markets now. And it was like, oh, this isn't going to be near as good. And it really was.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Was there anything else that you have that same kind of like
I would do
love for?
I mean, ribs. I mean, and I don't know. I love all of them. I've never had ribs here that I didn't love. I love pains. Like when if I have friends, high school buddies of mine that we do a trip every year and they love coming down to Memphis, and I'll eat like it's my last day on earth for that weekend. And so it'll be Pains, Gus's. I think one time when Bishop was still open, we did Bishop burgers and fries and just everything you shouldn't eat for 3 days.
Right.
We ate that. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
And then I had salads for a week.
One of my favorite things that I was going to say for this piece that I just find is like a guilty pleasure, and I don't even want to go have my cholesterol checked after I eat it, is at Payne's, is the smoked sausage sandwich.
Yes.
I mean, it is, so they smoke the sausage, and then right before they serve it, they throw it in the deep fryer so it is crispy
Didn't know that.
on the edges and warm through. Yeah. And then it has that neon green slaw that is just so, so good. And then they have a sweet barbecue sauce. So there's probably a ton of sugar in there.
Oh, yeah.
A good old fashioned white hamburger bun. And it is fabulous.
I've had a bite because a friend of mine ordered one when we were there.
Yeah. I would have never ordered it before. I was Nick Fergus, who's no longer with us, but he used to, he's part of the family that's in Rendezvous. He is the one that introduced me to it. And that's been a decade ago. And ever since then, I always get it when I get both. I get their chop sandwich, pork sandwich, and I get that sausage. It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah.
It's very, very good. So Eric, as the CEO of the Daily Memphian,
yes.
What do you do here?
What do I do here? I do all kinds of stuff. I think the thing that surprises people most, because especially if they know me from like behind the headlines or whatever, where they think I'm, almost entirely a journalist, I spend a tremendous amount of time in spreadsheets, on the ad sales side, all the marketing stuff, the subscriptions and the analytics, and working with our technology folks. So I do all of that, and then. There's a lot of sort of going and meeting with people and you never quite know why, but it's always good. And there's a certain amount of fundraising that I'm involved with. So it's kind of, which I actually like, by the way. I like that I get to do a little bit of everything. So that's what I do.
Yes. And you also have a podcast that comes
on
right after mine.
I know. Yes. And I have a podcast also, The Sidebar.
Eric, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. I want to go have chicken.
My next guest is Sophia Surratt. She's one of the business reporters here at the Daily Memphian, and she and I work very closely together because she covers the food beat in commercial real estate. And every week she has a column called Food Files that will tell you what's opening and what's closing. So Sophia, thanks for talking about good things to eat with me.
Of course. I love doing it.
Kind of what's your guilty pleasure? If you wanted a sweet treat or a savory treat, what's that going to be?
I love a good chocolate fudge pie, kind of with a brownie tasting base inside of pie crust, like a flaky pie crust. And the ones that have a kind of a harder top, like a harder layer on top of it, those are my favorite. And of course with ice cream on the side.
Do you have a favorite one in Memphis you like, or do you need some suggestions?
I might need some suggestions. What inspired my original love for it was a place in Gallatin, Tennessee called Top Hog. It's actually a barbecue restaurant. I will say the barbecue here obviously is preferred, but their fudge pie, that gets me. But I would love to find an equivalent here in Memphis.
Okay, one suggestion I've had for you, not having tried the pie that you are talking about, but when you talk about having a really good flaky crust and also having kind of that crispy layer on top of the chocolate pie, is the cocoa crackle pie at Muddy's Bake Shop. It is so good and so sinful. absolutely delicious. One of my favorites. Another favorite of mine, if at a restaurant, is Westie's, which is downtown in the Pinch District. They have, now theirs is more of a warm, gooey, just sinfully good chocolate pie. I think he calls it a fudge pie. And it's served a la mode with a scoop of French vanilla ice cream and whipped cream. And it is just, it's been a pie that I have been eating for, we'll just say decades. It's been on the menu. It's been so good. That restaurant used to be called, years ago, the North End, and it was on the menu then. And it is just kind of a Memphis institution. And you know who else has a good one? When you talk about barbecue restaurants?
Yeah.
Corky's Barbecue. And they serve it at the restaurant, but you can also find it at the grocery store in the freezer section that you could take home and kind of thaw and bake off yourself at home. So those are 3 from Memphis area shops that I think are worth the calories. So good, and maybe might be similar to the one you had. You're going to have to try all 3 and let me know.
Like, those are all 3 different types of experiences, too. You have one restaurant, which you can eat in Corky's, but also the Westie's one. That sounds really good.
Yeah, that one you have to eat there. Don't take that one home.
Right. And then the Muddy's Bake Shop. Can you take that to go?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, you can buy a whole pie there and take it home. And sometimes they also have like little mini pies that you can buy, like a single serving pie, and if you don't want to have to buy a whole like 8-inch pie.
Oh, goodness. This isn't going to be good for neither my bank account nor my sweet tooth.
Okay, let's talk about ice cream. So if you were going to pick an ice cream, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Sugar Ghost is always good for like a good ice cream, but a gelato, Zia Mato Gelato downtown, it's right by where I live. I love stopping in. They always have really good seasonal gelatos, and also gelato's such an interesting kind of flavor palette in the way the texture. I never really had it as often as I did like now with Zia Mato. And it's almost lighter, but also like it still has that creamy base. And I really like when they have caramel or chocolate chip and mint chocolate chip. I've tried more flavors there just because of how I know it's made, after writing a story about them. And so I'd have to say that's definitely on my top, but
that is a good one. And that shop opened this past year, if I'm correct, that it opened, and it's kind of in that Central Station building, kind of across the street from the arcade, across the street from Ernestine and Hazel's, right there on the corner. And his gelato is available in some stores across the city. He's kind of been serving in stores and restaurants for a while, but this is his first ice cream shop.
Yes, his first storefront.
Or gelato shop, excuse me.
Yes, his first storefront. They're in South Point Grocery, and I know they're more around town. And I'm glad they do that, because if they're ever closed, I can go there and get some. But they have an exterior door. You can't access it through the hotel, but they do have an exterior door right across from Ernestine and Hazel's, kind of catty corner to where their side exit is. And so it's really... I've loved having it there. It's so nice to be in the neighborhood and have an ice cream place or gelato place.
And so one of the things that I found interesting that I learned about them, when you make gelato, it has less air in it than American ice cream. So that's what gives it that great creaminess. And there are gelato making machines, but if I'm correct, Zia Mato, they actually hand churn all of that ice cream, I keep calling it ice cream, all of their gelato. So it kind of gives it that kind of nice, really wonderful, creamy, silky, luscious texture that just tastes so good. And he's Italian, so...
Yeah, and he went to Italy to actually learn how to do it. He spent I think it was a few months over there perfecting the practice. And you can really tell. I think he makes all of the flavors. And so I know he's really dedicated to his art.
So I think the perfect dessert for you, or for me now that I feel like I want to go get, is one of these pies. Then go by his shop and get some of his gelato.
Have a good concoction.
Yeah, do a scoop of the gelato with the pie, chocolate pie. I know we spoke a minute ago about what you do here at the Daily Memphian about food files, but what are some of the other things that you cover here for us?
So I do Food Files is the restaurant real estate that I cover. I also do residential real estate, commercial real estate, and commercial real estate and economic development kind of go hand in hand sometimes. And then also hospitality and tourism. So hotels, I've covered Memphis tourism before. And yeah, I do like having such a vast variety of beats because it allows me to do a lot more and venture out. And I really love the restaurant beat. It's one of my favorites.
It is a fun one to cover. I know I'm speaking from experience. Well, Sophia, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
My last guest today is Kelsey Bowen. She's one of the digital producers here at the Daily Memphian. Kelsey, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So many good things to eat here in Memphis. When you say, oh my gosh, I just love this food, I don't care what the ingredients are, what the calories are, I'm just going to enjoy this great dish. What is the first thing that comes to mind?
I am going to go, well, first and foremost, I'm going to grab 4 of my closest friends and I'm going to stuff them in the car and we're going to go to Bari and I want to get a fish. I want to get a fish. There's something so romantic and intimate about people sharing like a roasted fish with orange and fennel. I think of the bronzino is what they had the last time I went. It was for my birthday and I just loved it.
I just love that idea because there are not a lot of places that do whole fishes here in the city of Memphis. There are a few, and we can talk about some of them. I haven't had the one at Bari.
Oh, it's delicious. As many things at Bari are. It is delicious. It's buttery. It's flaky. And I love just like peeling off the skin. It's kind of like a little bit barbaric, but it's fun. And if you're super fun, like me and my friends, you'll eat the eyeballs too.
Oh! Ooh. Do they have flavor or is it got a weird consistency?
I think they're really too small to like even taste anything, but they're supposed to be good for you, right? Good for your brain, I think. So
this is really a health
really
food.
Brave. Yeah, exactly. It's healthy. It's healthy. We're splurging.
Do you know, do they roast it? Do they fry it? How do they cook it?
I think they stuff it with, when I went, I think it was like orange and lemon and fennel, maybe rosemary, and they stuff it and they bake it or roast it in the oven or something along that
sounds
line.
So good. Acre has one. Have you ever had the whole fish at Acre?
I've never been to Acre.
So Acre is in East Memphis. Wally Droe and Andrew Adams do a whole fish there too. And sometimes it's been a black snapper. I think it's been a branzino. And what they do is they kind of lightly dust it in something. I don't know if it's like rice flour or something like that. And then they fry it.
Ooh.
And it comes to the table kind of like, it's almost like it's crescent shape, but it's the whole fish. It is not attractive looking at all. And it comes with a little side of ponzu dipping sauce on the side. And it is one of those things that it is not ladylike to eat at all, but it is so, so good. So you need to add that one to your list to try for sure. And it's one of those things, I think when you have a whole fish, I've always heard it's almost kind of like when you think about different kinds of cuts of meat, that there is more flavor when it's cooked with the bones, that some of that flavor kind of goes into the meat when you're cooking it. So that's why they're more flavorful.
Right. And it's a little intimidating too. I've always wanted to roast my own fish. I love to host dinner parties and that is a goal of mine. Maybe in the new year, I can make that my New Year's resolution that I will roast one fish at some point. But it seems like kind of scary. So I like to order it from
somewhere else.
Restaurant.
Let them do all the work. I don't know. I think if you have a meat thermometer and you make sure it's cooked all the way, it can't be that hard. I haven't ever really cooked a whole fish myself. I've fried some whole fishes before, but I've never roasted one before. But I love that you suggested that because it's just such an interesting thing. And what I always do, I end up using my fingers.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if there's any other way that you can do it. It's not ladylike, as I said.
Right. You start with the fork, and then it's like, who are we kidding? I'm here with my friends. We're enjoying this fish. We're having great conversation. We're having great wine. Let's just dig in. Literally.
Bari has another dish that I just think is one of my favorite things, and I don't know if you've had it there, that is kind of a guilty pleasure a little bit, is their crab orzo. Have you ever had that?
I haven't. I love orzo.
it's just so rich and it's so good and it's so comforting. It's like if you could imagine like an Italian grandma making you something that was a comfort food to make you feel better. That's what it is, a bowl of. And it's one of those dishes they've had on the menu for years. They better never take it off.
Yeah.
I'm sure there would be other people other than me that'd be like, why did you take that dish off? But it's really, really good. And actually, I think it would be a nice compliment.
Yes, because you always have to have something.
It's supposed to be a standalone pasta with the crab meat and such in it, but actually I think it would make a great, if you're sharing that whole fish, it might make a great side dish for that.
You guys can have a little like tasting. We have a little bit of everything, family style.
I know. That's awesome. So is there anything else that you love to get at Bari?
Well, the last time I went, we got the cannoli to top off our wonderful fish-filled dinner, and it was delicious. You know what? I'll be honest. I was never a cannoli person, really. And then I had them in Boston for the first time, and it was delicious. And I was like, maybe I have been sleeping on cannolis. So we got one for my birthday, a ricotta filled, of course.
Yep.
And it's very rich, so there's only one, and you really don't need more than that.
Yep. I think it has to do with people doing right. I think there's so many things that are made out there that are mass produced.
Yes.
And it's just not the same thing. But when you have somebody like Jason and Rebecca Sievers who really are into making sure that everything they serve is authentic Italian fare, and they're even more regional, the Bari region. When you taste something at a place like that, it's not going to taste like anything you would ever find at a store or something like that prepackaged.
Yeah. Definitely not.
So are there any other dishes that you might have that you'd recommend that we should try?
Well, Good Fortune, of course. I'm always going to sing the praises of Good Fortune. And I like the coconut curry with the spice bomb. I could always dig into that. When it froze over a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year, my friends and I were fiending to get out and get some ramen from Good Fortune specifically. We risked our lives in the icy plains.
I can see that because again, something that's a little different. They make their own noodles from scratch. I don't know if you've ever been there. One time I popped in the afternoon and the whole bar was covered with noodles, and that's what they do during the day. They clean off the bar and they make all their noodles for the night, and then they clean all that up, and then it becomes a restaurant bar.
I love that.
For the evenings. Have you ever had their chicken wings?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I can't remember all they do, but like those wings are like brined, and then they're like, they're battered, and then they're fried, and then they're let to sit and kind of like, and then they dip it and fry it again. I mean, it's just like so much work goes into these chicken wings, and I'm not necessarily, I like a good chicken wing, but I'm not like, it's not like my end all be all at most restaurants. The ones at Good Fortune, I kind of dream about.
Oh, I feel like just waiting for the next time that I can go to Good Fortune. I was actually talking about it before I walked down here to come to this podcast, so my obsession runs pretty deep. But I think the last time I went to Good Fortune, I got the tofu bites that they do the same way. They didn't have the chicken wings, of course. That sold out. And so we were like, well, we'll just go for the tofu, kind of expecting it to not be as good. It was just as good.
Yes, they actually have the tofu ones because they realized that they had a lot of customers that were vegan that were coming in, and they started requesting it. And so Arturo Lighton and Sarah Kai are the owners. They told me that they decided just to take their preparation they did for these chicken wings and do it with tofu, and they're, just as popular.
Just as good, yes. I enjoy it. The curry that I get also has tofu, and I'm not vegan or anything, but it's so good.
That's the one I actually order too, and I'm the same way. It's one of those things that I'm happy to eat: bacon, pork, steak, chicken, you name it. But there, I actually love. That's one of my favorite ramens that they have as well. The broth in it, that coconut, is
so
just
warm.
So good and so comforting. It's just a wonderful dish.
Do you get the spice bomb as well?
I've never done the spice bomb.
Oh, you've got to. It comes on the side, so you can kind of control how much you put in it. It's nice to give it some heat, especially if you're cold. But I couldn't put the whole thing in. I couldn't handle all that.
Well, I'll add that to my order the next time I go.
Next time you're in.
For sure. So, A digital producer, for those who are listening, we're an online publication. So there's a lot that goes on digitally here.
Yes.
So can you kind of tell people what you do here for us here at the Daily Memphian?
Yeah, I kind of run the behind the scenes. I'm working in the background. I do copy editing. I do a lot of graphics on our stories, tracking Grizzlies injuries to violent crime in Memphis rates. We track it all. We do charts and graphics and send newsletters and just make sure that our website is running as smoothly as it can and looking as cute and friendly as it is.
That's great. Well, I know that there is a lot that goes into us as reporters. I feel like we do a great job, but there is no way anything that we could do would mean anything if it wasn't for people like you on the digital team kind of packaging it all together in a way that you who are listening can read it.
We get such great work from our reporters. It's a treat to be able to spruce it up and make it look as great as it can.
Thank you for being with me here today to talk about all of these good things. I'm going to have to go try the whole fish at Bari, and you need to go try it at Acre.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. And we'll meet back and we'll talk about it.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for right now. But gosh, we just discussed some amazing dishes. Some of them I've had before, some of them I haven't. My resolution for the new year is going to be to continue to try and eat all of these great foods that we have here in Memphis. If you're looking for more ideas on things to try, you need to check out our story that we did on the best bites of 2024. Over 10 Daily Memphian staffers chimed in on some of their favorite things they ate during the past year. And there are some incredible dishes on that list that you need to put on your list to try this year.